Hi, Joe Cerrone.
And Al Rosen.
Welcome to CAD 107, Introduction to 3D Printing, and our Zoom meeting for today. Lab 1, we have released. Lab 1 is this COVID-19 shield. And the first lab is to just basically go through the navigation of how to work with these CAD softwares, working with the Dremel 3D slicer, and printing. And so we will go through those basic operating procedures. Al, can you tell them about the color coding?
Yes, we have tried to make it somewhat simple and easy for you to understand. Blue, anything you see in blue is a reading area. Green is a lab or parts that you have drawn either in SolidWorks or AutoCAD itself. Magenta or purple color, however you like to look at it, is videos that we have done beforehand or something we've pulled off of our older videos. And anything in red would be quizzes, exams, and that.
Great. So as we look at the instructional materials, these blue links would be links to things like the books. So
that is correct.
We'll be using two books for this course. We'll use the Mastering 3D Printing, which is available here from Amazon. And you can get a free one by Kindle, or you can get the $11 one. And then the other book is the Mastering 3D Printing. And I think they have this one in the bookstore also.
Mm-hmm. That is correct, Joe. You might find a little less expensive online, but yes.
So we'll hold video Zoom meetings once a week at 9 a.m. And you'll click on this link. If you're in this meeting, you've already found that. Here's our projects book. That's our same link. So I think those are redundant. We'll be using a number of different softwares. We'll be using CAD software. We'll be using AutoCAD 2020. And Al, can you explain this for the AutoCAD? I'll do the SolidWorks. Certainly.
Also that 2020, if you come across, and yes, if you put 2021 on or 2022 to install, yes, you can do that either way. So the only reason why we say 2020 is Joe and I have 2020 on our machine. It's a lot easier for the grade, but yes, you can do the other ones also. So if you go over there and light blue, it says how to get started installed. If you left click it, and there's another one over there also in content. If you don't want to get over here, the meat and potatoes, you might say, is in content itself. So if you go over here, it has HTTPS content, www AutoCAD, and etc. like that. If you hover over it, and I'll use left click on it.
And before we go there, let's look at the rest of the instructions, because it's pretty much right here. You're going to select the AutoCAD and the version for that. There is a Mac version as well. It doesn't look exactly the same as the Windows version.
And we'll go over how to use the VPN into it if you want to. You really don't have to install anything except one portion, and then you're able to use anything that Open has on their software system on their open computer.
So these instructions have how to download and install the AutoCAD program. And we're primarily teaching this with AutoCAD. And so we do know that we get a number of students that like SolidWorks. And so you can use SolidWorks as well. We just won't have all the videos. I do quite a bit of SolidWorks myself, and we can start to develop some new videos for those as we go through the course. But for right now, we're primarily working with AutoCAD. We'll be using these two textbooks, and the way that you would download the SolidWorks is to click on this link and then to follow the instructions here for this student edition kit. And basically you can check your system requirements here. and then you can go to this website, and then you can select, yes, I already have a serial number that starts with 9020, and then you can fill out this information, and then you can request the download and install it. I installed this last week. It worked just fine. Okay, let's take a look at the syllabus.
Joe, can I interrupt for 1 minute?
Sure thing.
If you have to have a question, is there a way they can get a hold of us and ask questions?
I usually recommend that they email them or instant message us.
Okay. There's also, if you go down a little bit further, Joe, on the slide down, a little bit more, keep going. Stop right there. And if you need some more help on it, it says more experienced help, etc. And there's a PDF file of it. Joe, if you just click on that one right there, please. Magenta. That gives you some information about a VPM, how to log into it, and etc. like that. And we have others. There's a gentleman's name over there. If for some reason everything's gone wrong and you still can't get it, and you're a little upset or frustrated, could be, which is electronically, please get a call to Matt Wong, and here's his phone number. He also has an email, you can do it to him, and he's fantastic with any kind of software we have.
So we'll be using AutoCAD, okay, and here's what the AutoCAD software will look like. And so here's our first lab. We'll be working with this face shield and going through how to manipulate and use AutoCAD. We'll be downloading this file from the D2L system. And then we'll also be using the Dremel software. And I just printed one of the face shields. You can see I'm hooked up on the network. If I go into the slicer, this is it right here. This gives you an example of how we'll be working with the course. And so what we'll be doing is we'll be, in the first example, we're just going to print. Okay, so we're not going to design or create the CAD file for our first one because we want to get students familiar with the software. And this is an example of how we would go through and use this Dremel 3D printing software. And the Dremel 3D printing software is available to download. And I think we have the instructions there, right? Let's see here. Here it is, Dremel Digilab 3D Slicer. And so you'll select that. And then you'll go to 3D software, and then you'll download either the Windows version or the Mac version. And then there's some good instructions on how to use it. It's pretty cool. We can also do wireless cloud printing. And we haven't done much of this. It's almost easier to just email it because it does have some attributes to it that are a little wonky at this point. But it does have an online virtual slicer that we can pair to a 3D printer with a token. And so students can 3D print remotely with this technology. At this time, we're still in development work with it, but if you're interested in trying it, we'll see if we can get this part going. But at the most part, just working with the slicer is what we're going to use. If we hit the how to use, it goes through and shows you a short video for that. So those are the softwares that we'll be using. You'll need a CAD software and a slicing software. All right.
Joe, can you also go up to, when you're done, go up to content for a moment, please? We're going to show you another place to get some of this information. If you go to content, please, and click on it. Left click. Thank you. And here's CAD software right there. All you have is click on it. And it comes right up with instructions also. So we have it in multiple places for you. So it's nice to have. We also have our table of contents in there, topics. We have a syllabus in there. We have all that nice and neat laid out. So if we go into our syllabus for a minute. we like to use a PDF, don't we, Joe?
We do. It loads faster.
Yes.
So this is the introduction to 3D printing. It's a 2 credit hour course, so it's not supposed to be this great big giant course. It's still in the development area. I think we've been running it about 3 or 4 years now, and it's just progressing very well. Alan Rosen and I will be your instructors. You can best catch us on D2L email. There's no prerequisites for the course. The course is an introduction to 3D printing with an emphasis on operation of 3D printers and design of 3D printed parts. Computers will use students to create 3-dimensional models and prepare the models for printing. And we're going to go through step-by-step approach to creating and setting up the 3D printers. And so it's essentially a CAD course with 3D printing as the output device. And so we'll look at engineering analysis of these projects. We'll look at how we design them. We can do some teamwork projects. We'll look at our objectives, etc. And so as we go through, basically, we design and print. Academic integrity, these just cover the things that you don't want to do. And here's our outline of topics. And so we want you to go through and read the first chapter, why use a 3D printer. And then we'll talk about that next week as we start to get people rolling. We'll use online tutorials, readings from the books, and video tutorials, emphasizing 3D printing techniques. Course practices will be to complete the labs. We will have a midterm and a final, and I believe Al has quizzes also geared towards the course modules or labs. And the course can be taught face-to-face or as a hybrid. And with the COVID protocols in place right now, we're just teaching online. We're working on times when people can come into the labs and be able to access the 3D printers, but we have to get our student employees situated first. Methods of evaluation, it's pretty straightforward. We will go through these 3D printing labs, tests and quizzes, and a final exam. And then based on those scores, 90% is an A, 80% is a B, 70% is a C, etc. Other information, if you have any special needs, Oakton is a place we want people to feel comfortable. And we've listed these resources for you if you need additional assistance. All right, so that's our syllabus. Let's come back here to our table of contents. And let's take a look at lab 1, and then we'll start to.
You want to take a look at sequence, please? Topics of sequence real quick.
Definitely.
And go to PDF, of course, and let's see what happens. This is basically a breakdown per week of what we're going to be doing. And as you can tell, there's a lab 1. We modified it, so we're going to change that gears to the COVID
shields. Yeah, I thought they were more appropriate. So rather than printing a mechanical design, we're going to go with something that we can use.
So ignore that, but that's what we're going to be doing. I will change that momentarily. And then we're going to activate lab 2 very shortly. And that's really nice. That's a do not disturb sticker that hangs on your door.
And we have a whole accoutrement of stationery holders and things that you can put on your desktop, small boxes, memo blocks. We'll have reviews for the midterms. We have our midterm exams. And these projects are also in the textbook for 3D printing. And so we'll take a look at those projects before we end this meeting. We will then basically cover about 10 labs is our plan, and complete with a final exam.
And you have Thanksgiving weekend and over there also.
That's right.
Hey, Joe, what happens if a student can't make our video conferencing, our Zoom meeting?
We record the videos and post them in the D2L.
Fantastic. So if a student really needs to get a hold of us, all they have to do is look on it, click on it, let it run, or get a hold of us And if they need a special needs for a separate classroom Zoom meeting, let us know, right?
That's correct. And so here's the textbook for our projects book. And you're welcome to print more of them if you just want to go through and kind of crank through it. Here's our textbook. And so the textbook kind of starts off with some projects that we found were a little more advanced than we thought. And so we changed the order around a little bit because the MacBook stand and the chess set, they just seem to be not quite ready for the first project type of a thing. But as you can see, we have all these different projects. And then as we go through, let's take a look at our project for, I believe it's 11. Do some really nice things as far as we've done lighting and lighting shades. We've done a lot of different projects. Here's a chip clip. It's always nice to be able to seal up the potato chips. Memo block holder. And what we like about the textbook is it's not really CAD specific, is it's really kind of a blueprints book. And so as we go through, we've created videos for you, how to draw these with AutoCAD. We've got a few in there for SolidWorks, how to make these stationary holders. It's actually, I would call it a pencil holder.
And paper clips, eraser, whatever you want to put them in, scissors, whatever.
Right. Here's our second project, the do not disturb sign. And so when you're videotaping or attending a Zoom meeting, you can place one of these on the door, as well as some other things like bases, excuse me. So it covers a nice range of different things that we can go through in 3D print.
Hey, Joe, what kind of plastic do we have that we can use to make these?
Most of them are ABS plastic. So if we go to Amazon, and then we go with Dremel filament.
And filament is what?
Plastic for printing.
There it is. The ones on the rollers. Oh, neat.
And so it's not very expensive. We can get a coil of Dremel filament for about $20, $20 to $30, depending on what type of material we're working with. All different colors. The shiny silk ones are really very cool. And they have a whole area that we'll talk about as far as some of the different materials and some of the properties that you can work with 3D printers. So that's where we get our materials for the Dremel printers. And then the other textbook that we'll be using will be the theory book, which is Mastering 3D Printing and Prototyping. And this book goes into some other aspects of prototyping that we're working on developing as well. Things like laser cutting. Elle and I also do some CNC programming and things like that. And so as we look at the textbook here, this is a good way to get familiar with the actual process and history of how 3D printing has developed over the years. And so as we look at the textbook, we've put a few of the chapters in there for you. Of course, we want you to buy the textbook, but it's often the case that students don't always have everything the first day. And so the first chapter goes through why would we use a 3D printer, and talks a little bit about computer-aided design, the additive manufacturing process, and some of the history of 3D printing. And there's a lot of them out there. I think we have some pretty good 3D printers. Actually, I think the Dremels are excellent. Bosch Dremel is located in Mount Prospect, just up the road from the Des Plaines campus. And so they attended one of our advisory board meetings and said they wanted us to have those printers, and they've done a great job of supporting us with that and helping us get our 3D printing program up and running. And so the first chapter, go through it and read it and get the knowledge for different types of files, different types of processes for creating different things.
Joe, what's the difference between a laser printer and a 3D printer?
Well, when we're working with the laser, we're working kind of in a 2D environment where we're cutting like a plate or a piece of plastic versus 3D printing, which is sort of an additive manufacturing process. A laser is going to be cutting it, and it works off of CAD as well. We're able to create the part geometry and then to be able to cut or etch, depending on how strong a laser pulse we put through the product. I'm sure people have seen some of the Glowforge aspects for it. And we recently got a laser cutter that we're working on bringing in some projects for.
Fantastic.
All right, Al. So as we start to draw this video to a conclusion, you have the syllabus, you will need the textbook, and you will need the software. And then if we look at our lab one is to familiarize the students with 3D printing and the softwares to print out these different products. We have a introductory lecture, and then we also have the CAD files for that project. And then we have a video tutorial on how to use the 3D printers and the CAD software.
Outstanding.
All right. So with that, I'm going to go back to the main splash page. Students are to go through and read the textbook assignments. If we look at our lab 2, here's our do not disturb sign. And it looks like we did this one in both SolidWorks and on AutoCAD. So that's great. Let's look at the AutoCAD. We'll stay with that. First off, we can look at the PDF. And so the textbook basically just gives us the dimensions. The units are in millimeters. So we'll need to set that up and use a millimeter template. And then we'll create the geometry for that. And then if we come back to our Lab 2 project and we start to look at how we're going to make that file, we have a video here. That will walk you through the design process.
Joe, looks like those letters are above the other part of plastic. Do we glue those on, or they just automatically come up? Or
depends how we print them. You can put a pause in the printer and switch to different colors, but essentially they're just printed just layer by layer. And so there's a file that you download in AutoCAD to create the product. And then we walk you through how to take the basic student file, create the geometry for it. And we try to make these kind of easy or kind of foolproof, because we don't want students to learn everything about CAD to be able to make these. And so we'll give you some basic geometry to get started and then teach you how to change things like change the text or to move things around a bit.
so if a student isn't too sure if they've got it right, could they send us their part and we can take a look at it and send back information and some corrections if we need to?
Why, yes, they can, Al. They can do that. They can do that within the D2L software. And so once you have your files, you can go to the assignments folder, and then you can place them in the assignments folder right here. If I view this as a student, and then we go to our assignments folder, We can then take a look at our module 1. There is a rubric that's going to evaluate whether you have completed everything, if it's graphically accurate, are you using the correct design rules and dimensioning and the proper features. And then as we look at this, this will be a 30-point lab assignment. And then you can go ahead and just add your file right here, select it, upload it. Here's my COVID shield. Say open, add it. I'm just adding a JPEG, but that's fine. And then if you have a question here, you can write it to Al.
And if it's for some reason, let's say they don't want to grade it, but they want us to look at it, we can do it that way also.
Most definitely. So it's a good way to kind of open up a virtual dialogue to be able to work through these projects. Once you submit it, it will let you know that you have submitted it. It'll tell you that the file has been submitted successfully. And then when we go into the assignments folder, we'll go through and grade those and give you your feedback. And then we will print those projects and have them at the Skokie campus for students to pick up. And it's going to take us a little time to get that part situated, maybe a week or two, but you're welcome to come down and we'll have those in a place where students can retrieve their files.
And we would notify them 2 ways. On the splash page itself in front here, and also we'll send you an email to the entire class saying where it be located at so we can find it and you can find it also.
All righty. Here's our calendar of events. And that's pretty much it, Al. Is there anything else we need to cover?
I don't think so, John. I think we did a fantastic job. If there's some questions or whatever else that you might have, this is the time to ask, hopefully. And if you have any more, please email us and we'll return it as soon as we can.
Terrific. With that, I'm going to end this video lecture and we will post the recording in the main announcements. All right, that's it.
Thank you very much.